downstream water user like a private company, public also entity are willing to support the smallholder farmer that are applying the sustainable practice in the water catchment. So these are a kind of a platform that we are supporting at the country level. At a regional level, the program also is building on existing initiatives like Terra Africa, like Great Green Wall, to establish the three multi-stakeholder platform to deliver a cross-cutting capacity building to support and knowledge service to the country in the area of strengthening institutional framework, scaling up and adaptation to integrated, and also on the monitoring and assessment framework. For example, our partner FAO and the UNEP are supporting to strengthen the science and policy platform that will help to bridge the gaps between scientists and policymakers, and also support the dialogue and advocacy on mainstreaming ecosystem service, climate change, gender sensitive, and so on. FAO also is supporting at the regional level a partner network farmer field school, for example, platform that have been set, and also link the three platforms that exist in the continent, the one from the West and Central Africa Network, Eastern Africa Network, and Southern Africa Network. So we are also supporting the country. We have developed a monitoring and assessment ecosystem service framework that help our country to identify their baseline and also define the indicator to measure the transformation change that we are supporting at the country level. So it's just to say, to summarize, that transformation implies getting impact at scale, but for a system change, it's therefore important to have both broad impact, but also a long-term impact which requires a supportive policy, a strong institutional framework, and the cooperation among all stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonki. Thank you, Jonki, and thank you for sticking to the time. Excellent transition. I would like to give the floor to Tom Hammond from FAO. FAO has been involved actually in the IP on food security, either on the regional project and in some country project. But FAO is also the lead for the new GEF 7 impact program on dryland. And I would be very pleased and curious to know more about your intentions and lessons you have been taking from the past in terms of platform and dialogue. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Jean-Marc. And it was very interesting to hear that discussion from IFAD on the development of the food security program, because I remember the challenges involved in that at the very beginning, and it's exciting to see how far you've come in the last number of years. As Jean-Marc mentioned, I'm coordinating and leading a process now in the development of a new GEF-funded impact program on dryland sustainable landscapes. This is an 11-country initiative across much of Africa and also Central Asia. It's a $100 million initiative. It's more than $100 million, actually, and it might sound like a lot of money and a huge investment, and it is in many respects. But I think, as anyone has heard over the last number of days here in this forum, it's a drop in the ocean. The only way we can make these types of investments, and the investment that our colleagues at IFAD are leading on as well, ensure that they're durable over time, ensure that they're amplified, ensure that our government and local partners are fully engaged and own the results of these investments, is to work with knowledge, science, and policy platforms at local, national, regional, and global scale. And I think, as Graziella mentioned earlier, if we're not able to engage and leverage these platforms, we're not going to get the kind of durable results over time that we need. The impact program, the Dryland Impact Program, is our vision is primarily not to create anything new. Our analysis and assessment in the planning stage that we're in right now is that we've got the kind of platforms at global, regional, and national level that we need across those domains that I mentioned. What we need to do is build those platforms, leverage those assets, and amplify the results of these existing platforms in the best way possible. So let me just mention just a few. I think one of the most important platforms for us is the one we're in right now, is this convention, and particularly the global mechanism of the convention. We're already working with them, and we're going to continue to work very closely with the convention and the global mechanism over the coming years. And that's at policy level internationally, obviously. Globally, in terms of knowledge and outreach, we'll be working very closely with the Global Landscape Forum. We intend to ensure that this program and the results of this program are regularly shared and with the Global Landscape Forum, and we can use that forum as a method of outreach and engagement with our many, many partners internationally that we are looking to work with. At a regional level, and this is really key, I think, to the success of the program, we'll be working with regional bodies such as SADC in Southern Africa, the Great Green Wall, and the various mechanisms that have been developed around the Great Green Wall. EGAD, for instance, in East Africa. These are some of the platforms at policy and implementation level that we're looking for, because we hope, and our intent and our vision and our ambition in the program is to reach out and ensure that there's impact beyond the 11 countries that we're focused on. And so we need to work with those regional bodies. And finally, in terms of practice on the ground, we'll be working with our partners in WOCAT, the World Overview of Conservation Agriculture Technologies. They're an excellent, important repository for the knowledge and information that we'll be developing, and of course, deploying on the ground, and also other platforms such as the Global Soil Partnership and others like that. I'll stop there, Jean-Marc. There's much more we can say, and I look for questions.
Thank you. Now, before giving the floor to Stefan, I would like to just to take note that we have the pleasure and the honor to have Honorable Vincent Sempija, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries from Uganda. So thank you very much to be with us. It's a great honor. Thank you, Mr. Minister. And not sure it's worth to introduce Stefan Muwaya, UNCCD focal point from Uganda and coordinator of the IP project on food security. And I remember when we met one of the first time to develop the project, he just told me, we were coming back from Tibro in Ethiopia, and he told me, you see this river basin, I want the same thing in Uganda. So it was all about scale and dialogue and decentralization. Stefan, I will be very pleased to hear from you about the experience of Uganda.
Thank you very much. I thank you for giving me the opportunity on behalf of Uganda to share our experience. First of all, I want to appreciate very much the support that we've received from GEF to support communities in drylands in Uganda, especially in the Karamoja region, which is the most arid part of our country. I want to say that coming to the project is called Fostering Sustainability and Resilience for Food Security in Karamoja sub-region. The project certainly will be focusing a lot on supporting and empowering local communities. But I must say that in order to empower communities, we must appreciate that if we are talking about food security, if we are talking about land degradation, if we are talking about drought, it is very clear that this is a cross-sectoral action that is required. In that case, the first level of platform that we have put in place in Uganda is the Inter-Ministerial coordination arrangement that brings together the ministry responsible for land, the ministry responsible for agriculture, the ministry responsible for environment and water, the ministry responsible for energy and mineral development, and the ministry responsible for trade, industry, and cooperatives. And these ministries have already come up with a cooperation framework that brings them to have what we call a steering committee where the permanent secretaries of those agencies sit together in a meeting. We also have a technical committee where all those sectors, the key departments, come together to actually support action. And I would like to say that this is one of the approaches that we have used to ensure that we have an integrated approach to addressing food security, because we must make sure that land use planning is done. That is the responsibility of the Ministry of Lands. We must also ensure that, one, the natural woodlands in this area are conserved and well managed. We must therefore get the Ministry of Environment, which is responsible for forestry, be involved. We need water. They are equally responsible for water. They have to be involved. And therefore, I just want to say that I could say everything for all those ministries, but the most important one is trade, because we had to consider the Ministry of Trade, because we realize that the biggest challenge we have with communities is how to access and markets, and how to actually be able to receive commodities they need. And we thought that trade was a good way to really help improve our approach to managing land. And therefore, this is the first level which helps us to capture the various institutions and the policy approaches that help communities deliver with all those services being available to them. I want also to say the second level of platforms that we have considered is what we call the enterprise platforms. When we reach the community level, it is much easier, it has proved much easier for us to approach land management from the point of enterprises. If we find that in Karamoja, the main food is sorghum, we have now to mobilize our efforts around sorghum, because most of the land that is being used for production is under sorghum. And therefore, what we do is we know that if we can introduce land management action within the management of sorghum, which is dominating the landscape, then we know that this is going to work. And what we have done is to bring together the scientists who are dealing with sorghum, we bring together the extension workers, we bring together the input suppliers, we bring together also the people who market. And therefore, this enterprise platform enables us, one, to make sure that farmers are able to get the right and most resilient seed from the researchers. They are able to get the appropriate extension service from the extension workers. They are assisted by the Ministry of Trade to build cooperatives and be able to market their produce in a more organized way. And I want to say that we have meetings or platform meetings that bring together all these people, and an action program is prepared where each of the stakeholders has a role to play in supporting the communities, but also in ensuring that they take their responsibility to support them. And therefore, I want to say that this is perhaps one of the ways that we have taken action. The other level platform is at the level of the district subnational level, where the civil society, the government people, who are all supporting these programs are able to meet and exchange ideas, and also make sure there is synergy, there is no duplication, and also we make sure that there is joint monitoring. I think this is very important. When we have platforms, we try to make sure that the actors are all involved in a joint monitoring process that allows them to understand what each other is doing and where the challenges are. I think I will stop at that. I thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Very inspirational. And I would invite all the participants to go to the Karamoja region to visit the project. It's a 14-hour drive from Kampala, so I will never forget it. But I would like to highlight the effort from the national and from the local government on this project, who are supported by FAO and UNDP. It's a co-implementation in this project. When we were preparing this session on the platform, we started with the IP on food security and the dryland program. And of course, we're thinking about the TRI, the Restoration Initiative, which is another GEF 6 program on restoration. And we asked Salome from IUCN to tell us about the platform at global level, to have another point of view on a global level. Salome, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, first of all, inviting me to this important session. I want to start with the objectives of COP14 that has brought us here together to address the land degradation, because none of the country can really do this and tackle this by its own. It is everyone's business, and land degradation is a global challenge, and I think that has been a driving force of global partnerships and creating the global platforms. Within that, I want to give a little bit of examples on lessons learned of wide variety of global and regional platforms to date that drives the restoration forward. And those platforms work, and I will tell you why. Let me start with a global partnership on forest landscape restoration. That is a platform of wide variety of institutions. Some of them are present in this room, which has worked the last 16 years to create the largest restoration movement. And under those partnerships has been launched the Bond Challenge in 2011, the largest global efforts to restore 150 million hectares by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030. Bond Challenge has been driving and creating this largest political movement for restoration, but also has demonstrated efforts of the partnerships at global and regional level that creates these transformations across landscapes. And to date, about 170 million hectares has been pledged by national governments and subnational governments. About 40 countries has conducted national and subnational forest landscape restoration opportunities assessments to operationalize those pledges. But these platforms are not just about pledges and plans, but it is also about the progress. And a lot of progress are happening. With the government of Germany leadership, we launched the Bond Challenge Progress tracking tool. This year we launched the second report, and if you look at the report, they assess the progress of 19 countries. We can see a lot of restoration is happening on the ground. But the report also highlights enabling environments that drives the restoration, and one of them are these cross-sectoral collaborations and stakeholders, but also the partnerships that are channeled through these global and regional platforms. I also want to mention some of the examples of regional platforms, such as 20 by 20 of Latin America, and AFR 100 of African Landscape Restoration Initiative, which really fosters the leaderships and political movement for restoration. It has been really, for example, in 2011, Rwanda pledged 2 million hectares border-to-border restoration, and such a small country has been inspiration for other African countries to join the movement and demonstrate the political will. Again, these regional platforms are not just the pledges, but it is the opportunities for countries to come together and share the restoration knowledge and joint programming, joint fundraising, and such. And through those regional and global platforms, another great example is the emerging ministerial roundtables across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Central Asia and Caucasus countries joining last year as of today. And through these ministerial roundtables, we have seen a lot of ministerial declarations are emerging, which is a very good motivation and inspiration of how much countries are doing it to move the restoration forward to address the land degradation and mitigate the climate change. I just will mention some of the ministerial declarations. One is the Agadir commitment, for example, the unites the Mediterranean countries to jointly work on forest landscape restoration in the region. Another one is a Kigali Declaration that unites the Eastern African countries, as well as Lilongwe Call for Action that is championed by Southern African Development Community. Later, Niamey Declaration that is championed by the NEPAD agency, and Astana Resolution that brought together Central Asian countries together to how they can jointly deal with the transboundary issues, such as, for example, RLC and etc. So those partnerships do really work. It's not just the pledges or the planning, as I mentioned, but more about sharing the restoration knowledge and sharing the data openly, how they have achieved those progresses on a landscape level. And in conclusion, I will just mention that these platforms and partnerships and 3 countries are part of them and are also the opportunity for other initiatives to kind of leverage and build on those platforms and share knowledge and support countries to achieve their restoration commitments. And I will take this opportunity also to just lastly, in conclusion, to announce that these platforms has been also inspiration to create another regional initiative to support the New York Declaration of Forests and Decade on Ecosystem Restoration for Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asian countries are forming the new regional initiative, and it will be launched in upcoming UN Climate Summit in New York, and I will invite everyone who will be there to join and join these champion countries announcing this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Salomé. Si vous le permettez, je vais passer en français pour ceux qui veulent prendre le casque pour la traduction. Je pense que la discussion ne serait pas complète si du global on revenait effectivement au local. Et donc on a demandé à Pierre-Omer Ouedraogo, qui s'occupe de l'ONG SPONG, qui est une plateforme nationale au Burkina Faso, de nous donner un petit peu son retour d'expérience sur cette notion de plateforme, que ce soit au niveau national ou au niveau local, pour améliorer le dialogue dans les projets et les programmes. Omer, tu as la parole.
Merci beaucoup. Et merci de nous avoir aussi associés à ce dialogue. Alors, je suis Pierre-Omer Ouedraogo, je suis le chargé de programme de SPONG. Le SPONG, le secrétariat permanent des ONG, c'est un collectif d'ONG associations de 232 membres, mais qui est imbriqué aussi dans un réseau international qu'on appelle le RESAD, le réseau Sahel de désertification, qui est à l'échelle du Burkina Faso, du Mali, du Niger et puis de la France. Alors, le SPONG en tant que collectif, il faut dire qu'au niveau national, nous nous plaçons comme l'interface avec l'État et avec aussi les communautés à la base pour la mise en œuvre de la gestion durable des terres. Alors, à ce niveau, sur le plan national, nous essayons en fait d'inscrire nos membres qui sont au niveau de la base avec les populations dans les cadres sectoriels de dialogue, principalement ce qui concerne le cadre sectoriel de dialogue environnement, sécurité alimentaire, pour essayer en fait de remonter les expériences, les synergies au niveau de la population à la base. Il faut dire qu'ici, au niveau des politiques, nous faisons en sorte d'être l'un des acteurs de mise en œuvre des programmes au niveau national. Nous portons en fait le programme national de l'État sur le terrain, à côté et avec les populations. Au niveau de la population à la base, nous essayons bien sûr, à travers le volet mise en œuvre des actions et le plaidoyer, d'amener en fait tous les acteurs à être impliqués dans la mise en œuvre de la gestion durable des terres à travers les renforcements de capacités. Et en parlant de renforcement de capacités, nous avons tendance à oublier un acteur qui est très important,